what I want to know is, what were the type of relationships you attracted in that phase? Would you say that the time you had the least available support from the masculine was probably in like your late teens, early college? And also, because I know your life story, so that's why I'm pulling it up. But would you say that's also the time where you attracted a certain type of relationship? And what was the type of relationship?
Yeah. So, that in and of itself is, I'll try to answer that as best as I can without getting too complicated. So just jump in. But so I've always been attracted to hyper masculine men. And so, but that has been cusping on wounded masculinity, where it's like the rigidity, hyper discipline. And it's also like that fake level of security where it comes off as confidence, but the confidence is really just a mask for the internal insecurity. So I would say across the board, it was more of a, wounded masculine, hyper masculinity.
I want you to tell them more in like terms of relatability. So what was the kind of relationship? Why don't you give us a little more? Tell us, what was the kind of relationship you attracted? Because I'm telling you, what you're providing so many of these women and men here is so much information probably into their own lives. Because that's what like the human experience is, right? We're all mirroring each other. So can you tell us like more, what was the relationship like?
Right. So I think it would be best just to focus mostly on the relationship I had in like my 20s, because that's when I was probably like the most wounded, in both areas. And I attracted a very, wounded masculine man and so the relationship was very much that, this person like was insecure and very unemotional, very indirect, couldn't commit. And then, they had this, aspect of, real, and this is where we also kind of see, if you guys know anything about, when we talk about attachment styles, but that, avoidant attachment style, they tend to put all of their sense of worth into external validation by means of hobby, sport, career, all of those things. And so that was that person's number one priority. So like number 1 through 10 priority. And I was kind of rounding out the top 10. I was not put first. I was not prioritized. And then so, going back to something Yats had said, which is really important to know, is that when I would express my wants or needs, and I have a very dominant fawn response, which is like very like people pleasing. And also I don't like conflict. So me speaking like what I want and need was very, very hard for me to begin with. And when I'd be like, hey, and I'd be asking for, I don't even know if you could call it like the bare minimums. I'd be like, hey, like that person would, like shame me or blame me for expressing that. And here's actually like one example that is like by the book, was like a situation came up and I was trying to approach, this conflict, and actually I did approach it with a
give us some deets, yo. Don't just say a fucking situation came up. Like, give us some juice. We're here for the conversation.
No, you know what? Honestly, I don't even remember what this was, but like a situation came up and I was like, okay, I need to like handle this. And I thought I handled it in a secure way. And I just said, hey, I want to talk about this conflict that we're having, because I think that we just need to work through it. And so, can we set up a time within the next 2 weeks to have this conversation? And I kid you not, his response to me was, why? Because it's convenient for you. And that was his response to me. And if you can hear, and I'm not going to that is exactly what I said verbatim, I'm taking it at face value, but that's an example. And going back to, I'm so sorry about like whatever was said in the chat. I can't remember who said it, but yes, of course, it is a natural response for me to feel victimized and for me to feel like, I can't believe this person is doing this to me. And it's just completely, it's gaslighting, right? It's, gaslighting its own form. But so it is a normal response to that. And it's really just reflective of, that person's insecurity. So, yeah. So
no, that's amazing. And, when you talk about the victim, one thing I want to be able to give to you guys is, remember I said relationships are a mirror of ourselves. And so the partners that we're attracting are actually like showing us where we need to really grow and heal. And so believe it or not, I've said this as a post before, and I was talking to a friend at a restaurant today about, he was like, oh man, I got one bad review on my restaurant. It's aching me. It's hurting me. I was like, bro, if you saw the amount of shitty comments I got on my Instagram page, you'd be like, oh shit, this is easy. I put out a post once where I said, and this is because of deep shadow work, where I said, a narcissist cannot exist without a victim. Because if a narcissist doesn't have someone to be able to manipulate, he loses or she loses the value of what they can do, right? So the unconscious activity of like a perpetrator and a victim is that they need each other to continue the role biases they've given themselves. So when you talk about the victim, yeah, someone is actually like furthering that victimhood. But there's the complementary aspect of it's our inability to pull ourselves out of it. And second, believe it or not, that we feel so safe and comfortable in that role because it feels like something we know how to do, so we'll continue doing it. And that's why the gauntlet was created for us, is to create this level of empowerment, of healing these wounds so you can be who you want to be. You can be your real self and who you deserve to be. But coming to like, you know, back to what you said about the guy, what did you feel when he said to you, you know, why? Because it's convenient to you. Did you actually think to yourself, and I want you to be really honest with that, I know this is going to be tough. Did you think to yourself, you know what, fuck this, I deserve better than this? Or did you feel like, you know what, like shit, maybe you start doubting yourself and say, oh no, maybe it is because it's convenient for me or not?
I definitely felt shamed that for even expressing such a preposterous need. How dare I?
Right. And it's so terrible how like this is the exact example I was telling you guys, right? About like the wounded masculine will shame, judge, or project like the feminine for just asking for something basic, like dinner once a month, or having like a conversation about something. We all can say with good and fair judgment that those are not standards for a healthy relationship, right? But sometimes that's just what we think we can have, survive, and attract based on our past. So big question for you, Christina, and this one's a tough one. And you know, it sucks that I know all the answers because that makes me like ask the tough questions. If you want to flip me the finger at any point, just let me know. I'll just ignore it and continue anyway, but you're free to do that. But
I already did that earlier today. Don't worry.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I'm well aware you probably do it like 8 times a day in the least. But how long do you think this, or not how long do you think, how long did that relationship last for you?
9 years.
9 years. And the reason why I'm saying it is for those of you who think or who know, like, yeah, you know, I've been in this situation for a couple of weeks, months, or a little bit, maybe a few years. It can go on for a really long time until you see the value of yourself and that you deserve change. And the reason why I asked Christina that question is fast forward and look who Christina is today. The same person who may have been in that relationship for 8 years, X amount of time ago, today is facilitating and teaching so many men and women, empowering so many men and women to be able to be their best selves. All of this to tell you that the healing, the growth, and the good life for you is available. It's available to every single one of you. All you have to do is take the responsibility to access it. You have to make the commitment to yourself. You have to challenge yourself to break down your old norms, to sometimes fight fucking society and its usual rules, to put on that fucking pink dress, even though you're like, oh my God, but everybody's going to judge me. This really stands out. You know, people are going to be like, oh my God, look at her nails and her hair. You know, she's got her hair down in a workplace. Like, what the fuck is going on here? It's like, you know, so loosey-goosey. You have to be able to really decide for yourself who you want to be and what you deserve in your life. A good way I like to ask people this question is, look at your life until this point and ask yourself, are you happy where you are right now with everything the way it's going? You'll only have 2 questions. It'll either be yes, it'll be no. If it's yes, you don't have to change anything. If it's not, that gives you a good idea of like something needs to be changed, worked on, or edited. And again, you know, that's why I wish we could do more of this in here in the EFC. We don't. We dive deep into this in the Gauntlet. You're always welcome to approach us about questions for that if you want to dive into that work. But that goes really deep into identifying like what is it that makes you you. And I'm blessed to have some of my Gauntlet current students, graduates, all in this group as well. Hey, and welcome to the Inner Yats YouTube page. If you like our content, make sure you click the like and the subscribe button so that you get more of these amazing videos that keep coming your way.